Hey everyone, it's Jamie from An Street Tarot and Seasons and Ritual, and I'm here to talk about the Dark Moon in Taurus that's happening on April 27th. But I'm also here to talk about the Mars Pluto opposition and then also the fixed Grand Cross that's happening on the 26th of this month. So tomorrow. Today is the 25th while I'm recording this. It is Jazz Fest here in New Orleans, so if you're visiting, I hope you guys have fun. Be sure to wear your galoshes because it's been raining. But yesterday was dry and it looks like it'll be dry again today. So let's get into this fixed grand cross. When we have a grand cross in the sky, that means there are four planets that are 90 degrees from each other. So, so it looks like a cross, or you can make it look like a square. And so the signs that are involved with this um, are it's going to be Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio, Pluto and Aquarius, Mars and Leo, and the Sun in Taurus. So they're all 90 degrees from each other. And it's a fixed grand cross because those planets and asteroids are in fixed signs. So the way that this is being read by astrologers, of course, is always different. So I'm going to give you my take on this. And of course, when we talk about planets, they run the gambit from lower vibe to higher vibe. And seeing this fixed grand cross, is seeing this as holding the higher vibe of each of these signs. So because of that, we might feel a little irritated or agitated, right? Because the universe is getting us to level up. So just be aware of that. If you notice things are, making you mad or you're starting to pop off pretty easily, or if you notice, like you had an idea something was going to happen a certain way or an event was going to happen a certain way and you just really thought it was going to be like that and it didn't turn out that way or it's not turning out that way and it's really upsetting you, that could be another thing, that's happening, right? But it is this idea that we are trying to level up as humans and integrate this higher way of being and this higher vibration. So if you do find yourself, like, give yourself a little extra room, or you do find yourself getting like super angry, um, clock that, notice that. Ask yourself, why is this happening? Because those are the stories that we are asking to be you know, let go of. And I say that, but it means a lot of different things. It means, you know, again, this is a grand cross, so we are, you could say, at a crossroads. But it is this crossroad that's showing us where things have changed and things need to move forward. And that's coming through in a lot of different ways. Maybe, like relationships change and need to grow, and maybe that means you don't show up as much for others as you used to, right? And it's not in a mean way, but it's a way and understanding that, you know, maybe you need a little more space from each other because you have to grow in different ways. One way I see this happening, I have a lot of friends who have children, and it's time for these children are young adults, okay? They're like in their 20s, mid 20s, but it's time for them to fly the nest or not be so dependent on the parent in different ways, and I mean really different ways, but it's coming to a head, right? And not like a mean head or like, oh my gosh, but it's like, you know, kids are getting married, kids are getting new jobs, and so you got to recalibrate, right? We got to recalibrate these relationships because we do want people to thrive and we do want people to show up authentically and we do want people to feel good about themselves, right? So if you're noticing that maybe you're getting really upset because maybe people are treating you like a child, right? Or maybe or you feel like you got to treat people like children, these are signs that are saying, okay, I've got to rethink these relationships. So just notice if something's pissing you off, right? Because the idea is, because of the way that I see these fixed signs when they are in their higher realms. So one of the higher realms of Aquarius is truth, right? So maybe some truths are coming um, to light. Maybe this person you were in a relationship, business-wise or romantically, isn't. the person you thought they were, or maybe they're showing their true selves and we're like, oh wow, the truth is coming to light, right? So now I've got to learn how to deal with that. Um, that's that Pluto and Aquarius. And then, Leo is inspiration, right? Lower Leo is very bad ego, but higher Leo is that inspiration. Taurus is keeping things simple, right? It's earth. And then we have Scorpio or water, right? Which is that understanding of rebirth, that understanding of fluidity, that understanding of death. Okay. And it's so all these fixed signs that hold the zodiac up in their higher realms, um, this fixed cross to me is this idea that you can go into one of them and you can sit and you can meditate. It's not to make you feel stuck. It's not to make you feel like you're under pressure. And the thing is, if you are feeling these things, notice that, right? Notice that. And that would be the time that you would take those deep breaths and say, everything's exactly where it's supposed to be. Everything is recalibrating right now. Give me the wisdom so I know what it is that I need to say or what to look for in order to let this be as smooth, transition as smooth as possible. Um, because you guys, even though when I read these signs or read the astrology, there are times where I'm like, this transit's kicking my ass, and I get this. We're people. There's things going on. There's a lot going on, especially here in America. So when I come on and I give these, I would like for us to, look for the higher meaning and start to feel these higher vibrations. At the same time, I know that we're also on planet Earth and it's a 3D world and it's a free will planet, right? And so I just hope that these come through, that you guys can start to notice when these energies do come through, how you guys can like shift it, right? And maybe it's going to be a big shift. Maybe it's like, I'm done with this person. I'm not doing this anymore. Or truth comes through. I know I had a truth come through for me the other day, and I was like, woof, all right. It was just a truth. It didn't piss me off or anything, but I was like, that's interesting. I've actually been doing this for my whole life. Okay. And then I had to decide, okay, well, um, do I draw that line in the sand? How do I show up like this? Or do I show up differently? Or do I show up knowing that this is something that I do to see if I can um, make a boundary in order to shift that narrative, right? All these things are there. All these things are on the table. Um, but it is this energy, this grand cross is holding us because it does need us, for lack of better word, to grow up, right? Get it together. But to grow up, see where things aren't working. And they might have been, and these are places that have worked for a long time. We are, when we talk about like timeline collapse, jumping timelines, birthing new energies. This is it. This is it in a nutshell. I was thinking about this the other day about when we always talk about like karma or you don't worry, it'll come back around and we're like, yeah, but I don't want to wait years for this to come back around. Things are coming back around rapidly. Okay. If we were to say like um I need something to show me that, we're in a new timeline or we're birthing new things, the F around and find out phase for people right now, as they call it, in the social media sphere is happening almost instantly, especially here in America. Okay, like this is less than 100 days from when the current person started their election, and immediately people are finding out from all walks of life, rich, poor, in between, and this, that, the other. This is it, you guys. This is it. So we kind of have to realize things are changing. They're not going to be the same. Okay. We need to understand where we're in ourselves, where we're changing. Part of that is that I think it's thundering, and I just said, I don't think there's going to be any rain. That's kind of funny. Um, Part of that is living from the inside out instead of the outside in. And the people that have been working with this and It is a shift, but it is that idea that you're moving forward with what you do believe and you are in your authentic self. And that's that Black Lilith in Scorpio that is really moving forward in our authentic self and allowing that old to change, right? Um, Scorpio is knowing who we are. Black Lilith knows who she is, right? So if she's sitting in Scorpio, it has to let those old ways die in order for us to show up authentically. And then that Pluto in Aquarius, which is the truth, is bringing in these truths, right? So they're having that conversation. Then I'll go ahead and go to the Mars. So then Mars is there in Leo. um, Mars had to go through this huge transformation along with Aries, right? Who has Neptune just entered Aries, still at 0 degrees, bringing consciousness into Aries. That masculine Mars, right, is becoming a divine masculine. So it is this idea of a spiritual warrior to me. And he is in Leo. So he has to show up. That masculine energy is how we move, right? So he's moving inspired. He's moving with this inspiration. So what is inspiring him now? But it has to come from a new way of thinking, and that new way of thinking has to come from realizations, right? That this stuff isn't working anymore, or I'm not that same person I used to be, or I don't want to keep doing that. I don't want to keep looking for the outside to reflect that I am doing a good job when I know in my heart I am doing a good job, you know? And if you're on social media and you do these kinds of videos, and depending on how many likes you get, that's tough, right? But that's the kind of world. And I mean, that's in one example, but there's many examples. Um, but that's the world that we were living in, right? And now we're seeing a lot of stuff on social media is paid and bought for, that big Revolve brand thing that blew up with Coachella, all those people were paid, people getting jobs that maybe they're not qualified for, even though you were the one who is more than qualified, always comes to work with a good attitude. Um, just a ray of sunshine every single day. Yes, you are. But you guys are get what I'm saying. And so when we were those people and we weren't getting what we thought we should be getting from the outside world, it really put a damper on our heart, right? It put a damper on if we thought we were doing a good job. And all of that is crumbling right before our eyes. We're seeing it crumble right before our eyes. All those people, and one way you could see this is like all the people that are retiring or in protest, right, in America, um, because like in the DOJ, I'll just take that for example, just because that's top of my mind, but like in the DOJ, or even I guess you could say in the Pentagon, right? Um, because the integrity that they brought to the job is no longer there. So again, Black Moon Lilith, right? She's very close to Eris, and the idea that she's disruption, but she knows who she is. She wouldn't submit to Adam in the Garden of Eden, so she left. She's like, nah, nope, we're equals, right? So sitting there in Scorpio, allowing those deaths to happen, so it comes up, right? And then that Mars opposite Pluto, and I'm just going to touch this, and then I'll go back to Sun and Taurus. So that Mars opposite Pluto. Pluto and Aquarius, Aquarius being the truth, right? Well, how are we going to move forward in the truth? So let's take that example. Those people are retiring or quitting their jobs in protest because it doesn't have the integrity. They can't move forward in that job, right? Instead of like, so what's not quote unquote winning, for lack of better terms, is that lower Mars energy. The lower Mars energy of just might makes right, do as I say, my way or the highway. If you guys have some more, throw them in there. Um, all that is crumbling, right? Because Pluto isn't going to have it. Pluto is bringing in these new truths in Aquarius. They're very apparent. We can't keep moving the same way like we used to. And I mean this for a lot of things. I mean, like the way, and when I say like the way the world did business, right? The way that we overlooked things, the way that things weren't being shown to us, the things that we didn't want to see, right? Um, all of that is shifting, and it is a lot. It is a lot. So then we go to this sun in Taurus. The sun in Taurus wants to keep things, go back to being simple, right? Go back to being held by your mother, right? Taurus is Gaia. Taurus is fixed earth. Taurus to me, the bull is Hathor, right? She is the myth that made the Milky Way. And I kind of wonder if she is the golden cow, right? In the Bible, when they were like, they were worshiping a golden cow and then they burned it. But, before Christianity, uh, violently took over everything and people had their own faiths and religions, if you people did worship Hathor, who was a cow. So anyway, neither here nor there, but maybe you guys could put your thoughts in the comments below. But it is this idea of going back to keeping things simple. The old way of this age of Pisces, Pisces at its lowest is, deception, illusion, confusion, not knowing which way to go. Like your feelings saying this, my mind's saying this, I don't know, right? And to get out of that and start this new timeline of this age of Aquarius, here we are at this crossroad. We've got to hold this energy for us to start vibrating higher and for us to start working in this concept of love, you know. And then let me just talk about love for a second, or love adjacent, because sometimes the idea of love is just lost on us because of what we've gone through in our lives. So, with the fixed signs too, it is this to me, what comes in when I'm like, okay, when I say, what does this fixed grand cross mean? It is this vibration or this love, this meditation of love, okay? Because love is what changes everything, And like if you remember being in love and you were in love and you're just like, oh, it's love. It does change everything. Everything's a little brighter, a little sillier, things are easy, right? Again, we're in Taurus season. Taurus is ruled by Venus. Venus is the goddess of love, right? And so we're coming back to Taurus. We're coming back to simplicity. We're coming back to love, and especially love of self, right? When you are showing up authentically and you can live to your own integrity and your own authenticity, you feel good. You feel good about yourself. You're not wrestling with the demons or the monkeys on your back or anything because you're like, no, this is what I believe in, and I can move forward this way. And so it goes back to that heart space, goes back to that higher heart. It goes back to um, being still, taking those deep breaths. And if this the next couple days are very challenging for you, it's okay to cry. It's okay to let things out. Just drink a little extra water, I always say, because we got to be hydrated. Um, but also know that if you can't understand, like you're just like, I don't understand, I don't get what love, then I say, then focus on being love adjacent. And that would be, in my mind, like when you see people with their pets and you're like, and you feel just love, right? And you're like, so you're kind of feeding off that energy, right? Or you see people with babies or kids or whatever, and it makes you feel that way. That's what I say, love adjacent, just being in it. So you can get used to this feeling of love and let it come back into your life, right? Because we need love to come back in our lives. We need to love ourselves more than anything else in the world, and we need to be okay with that. So this fixed grand cross to me is what is bringing this in. And in this grand cross, right, we do have this Pluto Mars opposition, which will be exact on the 27th. I'll get more to that in a minute. But and the other one is the Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio is going to be opposite the Sun in Taurus. And I feel like this, again, these oppositions to me, each sign has to hold their own in order for things to move, to keep that tension. So the sun is lighting up, and the sun is like maybe it's 7 degrees of Taurus, not too far in. I always say it's still in that page energy. So that means that Lilith is 7 degrees in Scorpio, roundabouts. So it is that page energy, right? And so it is this feeling of newness, rebirth, renewal. That Page of Cups, is sort of silly. He's got that little fish in his cup, because it's just kind of silly. That Page of Pentacles, is always holding that coin because the page knows that that's the manifester. And if they know they can do it, then it gets done. So it is this energy of that rebirth and renewal of being silly, finding love in the self, finding creativity in the self. It can be simple, it can just be listening to bird song. It could be laughing at one of your own jokes, right? Like that brings back being silly. Um, it can bring back being creative. And so that opposition between those is bringing this energy back in. That opposition between Mars in Pluto, Mars has to show up now with this new knowledge, right? This new way of being, this new way of moving forward. He has to move forward with integrity. He has to move forward with inspiration. He has to move forward thinking differently because we're in this age of Aquarius. There's no more confusion, delusion. Would they always say deflect and gaslight, or deflect and or defend and deny and deflect. I don't know, but that's not there. That's not going to keep working. It doesn't mean that energy still isn't on the planet. It means there's nothing behind it to keep it working because we are in this new age of Aquarius. Remember, Pluto's only at 3 degrees, right? We are dipping our toes in. And then Pluto's going to go retrograde pretty soon. But the last thing I want to say about this Pluto Mars opposition, it will be exact tomorrow. No, the 27th. Today's the 25th. Sorry, the 27th. But understand they've been in opposition for, I don't know, I want to say a couple weeks. I don't know if that's true, but they will still be in opposition until May 10th. Okay. And I get the idea of like the exact oppositions this day when they're exactly across from each other. But I also want to say, like, we're still in that energy, so we don't have to stress out. We don't, yes, it's a big deal mathematically, they are exact, but we're going to keep working with this theme until May 10th. So if you don't have all the answers, or, it's a shitstorm and you're like, it's going to get easier because the answers are going to come in. The way you move forward is going to have to be more based in truth, okay? Instead of just lies, duct tape, and illusion. Okay. And that could be kind of like a jolt, right? But that opposition is there to hold you in space, right? To get the right answers in order to move forward. And if you are right now, because we're in this Grand Cross, feeling stuck or you don't feel like anything's moving, then take the time to meditate. And by meditate, I mean just ch be cool, right? Chill out. Just take a few deep breaths. We're moving into the dark moon. Dark moon is always a time to me of rest. It's when the masculine and feminine are together because the sun and the moon are together. That sun is our masculine, that moon is our feminine, and they get to spend that time together. So, in these times of the dark moon, when you cannot see the moon, I always say this is the time of rest, okay? I know people say it's time to plant seeds, it's time to do that. But if you just take this time to rest, the seeds will start planting themselves organically. You'll know what seed to plant because you're not going to be held so hell bent on, I got to do this, I got to make sure there's an opposition, we're in a grand trine. It's like, calm the F down, everybody. It's hard enough being on Earth, okay? We don't need to factor in another, things we got to keep up with and be on time and set another clock because we're in the age of Aquarius now, friends. I'm an Aquarius, we're air signs. We kind of there's, think of air. Okay, it's a little more fluid. Um, and I know you're like, well, what about Pisces? It's water. But Pisces is mutable. Okay. That was a mutable sign. Okay. Aquarius is holding the air. Okay. So while it is moving, but you got a little more space. That's what I mean. Like there's just more to me boundaries because Saturn was our ancient ruler and he's boundaries. And then Uranus is our modern ruler, right? And it does want things to happen, but both of them are still our rulers. So we stay go. But it is this idea that it's a fixed air. So while it is moving, it understands the idea of a boundary. So unlike a mutable sign that is constantly moving. I hope that makes sense. Like in my mind and like in my energy, it makes sense. I hope it makes sense to you. Um, so going back to the dark moon of Taurus, I digressed and I kind of lost my train of thought. But it is this time of rest, right? Because I always say the new moon is when we first get that sliver, okay? You'll know what seed to plant. Also, there'll be some seeds that I'm trying to say when it's dark because the masculine and feminine together, they get planted organically. And when you have that time to rest and you can just like take a nap, you might need to take a nap, and things are still moving around you, then you're not constantly reacting, right? You're planting the seed to where you want to go instead of constantly reacting to things. And that's really important as we start moving into this age of Aquarius because that still goes back into that idea of living from the inside out instead of the outside in. Um, we're at this time. Timelines are collapsing. Um, this F around and find out is showing us, like if you I don't want to say do something wrong, but if you choose a certain way and it's not good for you or the whole, it's going to be shown back to you really quickly. So, and let me just say this too, because this keeps coming in with relationships. If you are deciding to be in a relationship with someone, you're going to know pretty quickly if this is a good relationship or not. Okay, so that kept coming through, and I don't know if it's because Venus is involved in this moon, a dark moon, just because she rules Taurus. Venus is direct. She is still in Pisces. She's still exalted. She's at 28 degrees of Pisces, and she's still in conjunction with Neptune, who's in Aries, at 0 degrees. She's still in conjunction with Saturn and the North Node, who are both in Pisces. So she's really understanding boundaries right now. She's really understanding her self-worth right now. And that's not going to leave when she goes into Aries, because then she's going to go into Aries, which is that I am presence. She's going to talk to Neptune. Neptune is bringing that consciousness in, right? It could be I mean, it is the consciousness of the divine feminine, right? So I could say it could show up like as in, someone who identifies as female knowing their self-worth and really getting it. But at the same time, it's also that energy of the divine feminine of everyone on the planet who knows their self-worth, knows what they're not going to put up with, right? Knows what they're going to quote unquote fight for. Because it is still Aries and Aries is the warrior because he's ruled by Mars. Um, but moving forward in that I am presence with that consciousness. So this is painting a wide picture, right? This is a lot. And so the way that we deal with this is shows our character, right? And shows where we have grown, right? It shows where maybe we need to grow a little more. But I want you guys to understand this is a lot of energy. It is fixed. But lean into the fixed in the sense that it is here to support, right? And what isn't supportive anymore is really going to start showing its ass, for lack of better words. And when that happens, sometimes we do get sad. Sometimes we do get angry. So just, I'm gonna say be okay with it, just for the fact that this is where we're at. And if you're not okay, and if you're like, I don't want things to be like this, I want to be like that, sit with that. Talk yourself through that. And understand that we constantly have to turn over, we constantly have to grow, we constantly have to evolve. And we're really being shown right now where we haven't evolved, where we haven't grown, where we haven't taken care of ourselves, and where we haven't taken care of the other. In Aquarius, who is about the individual and the other, it is this community minded, bringing in this new consciousness as well, because it is the cosmos, isn't going to stand for that stuff, no matter how you try to hide it or wash it or anything like that. It is an air sign. It is about communicating differently. Mercury is still direct. I forgot to look to see if he's still in Aries or if he's moved in Taurus, so I do apologize. But these personal planets are here to help us exceed, excel. And, your growth and you vibing up is going to look different from someone else vibing up, right? So have some patience. And again, if you guys are having a bad day, don't go out. Just Netflix and chill. I don't know what the fuck they guys say anymore, but whatever. Do something. You know what I mean? But check in on your friends because this is a lot of energy. Check in on your family if you can. And, if you do, and like, let me just say this too before we get off because I know this is going long, but like, if you make sure, if you are on medication, make sure you're taking your medication, right? Make sure you are drinking plenty of water. If you feel like crap, are you eating like crap? There's some things that we can do for ourselves that really will help us. And if you feel like you need an ice cream, go get an ice cream. It's okay. It's totally okay. The universe still loves you. Okay. So, thank you for sitting with me. Always like and subscribe and all that other stuff they always say on these channels. Um, oh, let's pull a card real fast. Yeah, let's pull a card real fast. Okay. For the Stark Moon. Okay. If you guys have any questions, always reach out below. You can also see me on Instagram. My blue sky is there. It's very quiet. Oh, we got two cards. Oh, we got three cards. Um, oof, we got three cards. Okay, let's go. Um, So for the Stark Moon, we have the Ace of Wands, right? Wands is fire, representing this Mars, if you will, in Leo, showing up in a new way, getting inspiration, bringing in that ace inspiration. Um, the Ace is the beginning, so we're at the beginning of this. We have the Three of Pentacles, if you will. Pentacles again is Earth. The Three of Pentacles is one of my favorite cards because it is about working together, right? Making a plan, working together. And that could be, you know, working with your friends, working with your doctor, working with spirit, however you want to do. But it is about this working together. Pentacles is Earth, so keeping it simple. But also like being practical in the plan. And then the third card we get, where I was like, woo, is our High Priestess. Look how beautiful she is. Representing the moon for sure. Again, keeping it simple, but also bringing in this divine feminine energy. This would also be Black Lilith to me, and Scorpio in this fixed grand trine. So we have water, earth, fire. I guess the High Priestess could also be air. So we have the grand trine here in all these cards. Let me see what's on the bottom. Knight of Cups. Okay, so the High Priestess, back to the High Priestess, right? The High Priestess is that divine feminine energy, like I was saying, she is fluid, she is the mystic, right? And so she understands the mysteries. And so it's important to be comfortable with the High Priestess energy because she isn't logical, right? She is connected to the earth, and the universe and the cosmos, right? She moves between the things, the veil, the things that we can't see. And also she's coming in because I was talking to my friend Heidi the other day about how thin the veil is. So I think she coming in as well as talking about, how thin the veil is. And you can see she's got the moon here, right? And the up there as well, the crescent moons. That is getting back in touch with this intuition. This is getting back in touch with our senses that might have been offline. It could be getting back in touch with the clairs, right? Clairvoyant, claircognizant, aud, clairaudio, I don't know how to say this way. Um, so it's all happening. It's inspiration, working together, working with spirit, listening to spirit come through. Dark Moon and Taurus, fixed Grand Cross, these oppositions, it is to move us higher. And it is to help us, when we say like be inspired again, not thinking like all people are trash, right? Like not thinking like this is it, right? We're birthing this whole new cosmos, this whole new energy, right? And we just got to start learning how to integrate her. And once we do, and when we get used to it, and it's something that we'll do for our entire lives. It's not like, oh, one and done, but it's just welcoming this high priestess energy. Um, the inspiration in working together and working with spirit will show up, I think, a lot quicker. And in so many different ways. That's the beautiful thing about being a human and working with the cosmos. The way that you do it is going to look different than the way that I do it, but it's still going to be beautiful, right? It is about being that higher vibe, that energy of love. And if you can't get there just yet, then being love adjacent. Okay, friends, I will see you next time. I hope everyone has a beautiful weekend, and a really happy dark moon in Taurus.